Hi, I'm Sandra, and welcome to Belly by Sandra Volume 2. In this DVD, we study with a basic approach to arm position, posture, shoulder shimmies and a little bit of upper body, large hip circles, twists, undulations, reverse undulations, and a quick introduction to the Turkish Drop or Turkish Backbend. Included on this DVD are drills for each set of isolations that we work on. At the end of each section, we learn a small dance combination. I hope this DVD helps you perfect your basics so that you're ready to move on to the next level in belly dance. We're going to take some time at the beginning of the DVD to talk about arms and arm placement. Throughout the DVD, I'll be careful to offer corrections about the arms and the flow and movement of the arms. But before we begin, let's talk about a neutral position for the arms, because it can end up being really challenging if you aren't consciously focused on where the arms can go. We're going to keep the arms in front of the torso. So from the side, you see that my rib cage is here and my elbow is in front of the rib cage. Try not to bring the elbows and wrists back so much that you're engaging the upper back. If you keep your arms too far back, it starts to lift the chest manually. And you always want to have a flat upper back so that you have the range of motion available in your chest for an accent if you need it. By keeping your arms forward, you can keep your back relaxed and keep a natural stance in the upper body. What you really want to be careful of in a neutral stance, I try to keep my hands around waist level. If you cross your arms at chest level and open out from there, that gives you a nice level for your hands. You really want to think about accenting the hip movement. So if you have your hands up at your shoulders when you're dancing, it tends to bring the gaze up instead of down to where the action is in Middle Eastern dance. One of the things I see students do quite often is when they're nervous or they're distracted and not paying attention, their hands will start to lift up. And what tends to happen is the hand becomes parallel to the elbow, and it turns out that the elbow and hand go into the same plane. I always try to remind my students to keep the hands in front of the elbows in front of the rib cage. You don't want a closed stance in the front, but you do want that feeling of having the arms coming forward like an embrace to the front. I keep my fingertips pointing out instead of closed in, but it really is a forward position of the arms with just the forearms opening out. So try not to drop the elbows and let the elbows line up with the wrists. Try also to not lift the wrists so the elbows line up with the wrists. Whenever you see that happening, just remind yourself to drop the wrists forward and keep that whole line coming forward of the torso. We're going to practice a basic, iconic Middle Eastern dance move. It's called snake arms, and it's very simple, but it takes years to master. So being conscious and patient while you're practicing will really help you build some consciousness in your hands and let you know where your arms are. If you make a mistake, that's fine, but you learn to feel more familiar with your arms and hands, and that's how you're going to make them more a part of your dancing. So facing the mirror, we're going to start with the hands at the hips, lead from the elbow as the elbow lifts the wrist and the elbow brings the wrist down. The motion initiates from the elbow and the elbow pulls down. I imagine that I'm living in a little box and that my fingertips are paintbrushes, and I paint with my fingertips up the wall, and I paint with my fingertips down the wall, and I paint with my fingertips up the wall, but I never paint my own hips. So your fingertips are always reaching out to the sides and never curling in towards you. So when I lead the motion with my elbow to my wrist, my elbow is what initiates the motion down, and my elbow is what initiates the motion up. From the elbow to the wrist, to the elbow to the wrist. Be careful that you don't fold at the elbows and bring the forearms forward. From a distance, it's difficult to see the depth of perspective, and it just makes your hands look very short. So make sure that your hands and your fingertips are always reaching out. Another variation that I really subscribe to is keeping my shoulders pressed down and back. It's not uncommon at all to see Middle Eastern dancers lift with the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist, and then bring it down, shoulder, elbow, wrist, and it looks a little bit more, the motion continues into the top of the torso. But if you have any kind of shoulder problems, rotator cuff injuries, it really starts to fatigue the shoulder joint. So I try to keep the shoulders pressed down and back and move from the elbow to the wrist, and the elbow to the wrist, and the elbow to the wrist. When you're practicing the motion, you want the two arms to be a reflection of each other. So if you stop, this hand should have a curve that is the opposite of the other arm. And when you're moving through it, stop yourself and check and make sure that those two arms are a perfect reflection and not one arm here and the other arm here. They have to be at the same place in the movement on the opposite side. And that is your goal, to move through it slowly and consciously with the fingertips reaching out, with the movement initiated from the wrist, and the motion a mirror image but flipped upside down. If you let the motion be dominated by the hand, if you start with the hand and move through it, that's breakdancing. So make sure that the motion starts with the elbow. The movement comes from the elbow. We're going to try a variation on this, which is a folded snake arm. And the basic motion is almost like a paddle wheel, coming in towards the chest and in towards the chest. And I'm going to press through the wrists and press, so the motion I get is pressing out and pressing out and pressing out and folding through, out and out and out. When you open up from your neutral position, your elbows generally stay at just about this level. When you drop your hands, only the forearms come down. So as the arms come up, the hands come all the way up. As the arms come down, the elbows stop and the forearms continue. We always leave this big space around the torso. Let's do a short combination just with arm movements, starting with our snake arms. We're going to do 8 counts of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then let's fold in half. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more. 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to open out. I'm taking this position and splitting it in half. As my arm comes up, my upper back arches to follow the arm, and then from this position, I'm going to go right back into my snake arms. This is the arc. Very nice. And we're going to bring the arms all the way up and sweep down. The elbows stop midway. We're going to take our sweater off, grab it here, and open it out. And with that arm movement, we do a small pivot turn. Let's try it one time on the left, and then we'll do it with music. 2 counts of 8 of snake arms. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we fold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we're going to open out. My head and my upper body follow my arm. And I'm going to lift this elbow until I have a sweeping S-curve that goes back into my snake arms. Both arms reach up, nice curve through the arms, and both arms come down. The elbows stop midway, the hands continue. Cross the hands, coming up and opening. Keep your hands and your elbows in front of the body. Let's try it with music. In this section, we're going to be talking about shoulder shimmies, which are used as an accent and a minor accompaniment to a lot of the major isolations and interpretation of Middle Eastern dance. In Persian dance, however, they're almost the dominant feature, and they do them so beautifully and in such a feminine and expressive way that I really am strong with my students about how much you can get across just with the upper body. So we're going to talk about the difference between a Latin shoulder shimmy and a Middle Eastern shoulder shimmy, which I think are very often confused. The Latin shoulder shimmy, which is something that we see a lot of in popular culture on TV and in music videos, can be with the arms relaxed, but it's a very frontal movement. And so when you see a woman bending forward and shaking in front of you, that's a Latin movement. The motion is in the front of the chest. The Middle Eastern shoulder shimmy has that very lifted back, and the motion is in the shoulder blades and the upper back. So the motion that you see in the chest is incidental to what you're trying to focus on, which is a shimmy in the upper back and the back of the shoulders. So the first thing to remember is to have your elbows in front of the chest and your hands in front of your elbows. That gives you a nice relaxed look. If you bring your hands back a little bit, it makes you look a little bit timid and frightened of the people in front of you. So you always want to be reaching forward. You want to lift the chest, and that's the most important part, is even if you don't feel the confidence, to show the confidence of lifting your chest, because if you're going to be doing upper body work, you have to promote that confident attitude, and don't let it be here with the upper body work. So lift the chest up, stabilize the chest, and then the motion that you want to see is the motion of the shoulder blades moving across the upper back. Now the motion that you don't want to see is any motion in the hands. So the hands aren't going to follow the motion of the shoulders, and they don't move with the elbows. You should picture your hands resting on bicycle handlebars, gently in space. They're not going to move, only the shoulders. A good way to practice this is to rest your hands possibly on the back of a sofa, or to even rest your hands by the fingertips on the mirror and see how much motion you can get in your shoulders without having any of that motion translate into your hands. The importance of keeping the shoulders pressed down and back becomes obvious when there are variations in the shoulder movement. A lot of Saidi and some folkloric Arabic dances lift the shoulders. And if you have a hard time keeping your shoulders down, you're going to have a hard time hitting accents with the shoulders lifted. So let's first start by keeping the shoulders pressed down and back. When the pace of the movement picks up, the motion becomes smaller and very light. Another thing that we want to be careful of is to not drop the elbows. It gives it a very cramped feeling, and it really does tend to line the wrists up with the elbows. You want everything moving forward. Really try to reach and extend through the arms and keep it feminine instead of hip-hop. So when you start dropping your elbows in, it really tends to look a little bit more African. When you reach out with the elbows, it looks a little bit more Middle Eastern, a little bit lighter and more feminine. Let's try a variation where we have the shoulders moving forward and back, and then a little up and down. So you can feel the difference between those two motions. And then let's try a combination where we combine the two. Our combination combines the forward and back motion with the up and down motion and some common Arabic gestures with single shoulders and chest drops. So we're going to start with a half-speed shoulder shimmy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, full speed, 6, 7, 8. Left shoulder up, 2, 3, 4, drop, 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 drop. So to break down that combination, in some styles of dance, this strong half-speed shoulder shimmy, in a lot of Turkish motion, you want to see the strength and the articulation of the upper back in the motion, and sometimes it's fast and light. We're going to practice both. 4 counts of slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The accent on the shoulder up. 1, 2, 3, 4. The accent on the shoulders down. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up tempo. 2, 3, 4. The accent on the left shoulder up. 1, 2, 3, 4. The accent on the shoulders down. 5, 6, 7, 8. When you're doing shoulder work, it's a good idea to train yourself to smile. Whenever you're going to do this shoulder, you're never going to have a blank look on your face. Practice that as you practice the combination. Let's do that with music. The undulation is a full body roll, and the undulation with the footwork, traveling, is also called a camel. So let's start first with the undulation in place, and then we'll add the feet. I'm going to talk about the 3 sections of the torso that you want to activate to accomplish a smooth undulation, and you really want to try to practice this to be a muscle-driven motion instead of just a kind of leaning and rolling motion. You want this movement during your practice to be active and really work through your abdominal muscles and stretch out through the lower back instead of kind of rolling through the spine and feeling pressure on it in different places. This should be a very stretching and working motion and not so much a relaxing motion. We're going to start with the top muscle. It is the diaphragm, and it's the topmost muscle in your abdomen. And you can activate it with a big inhale. And when I inhale, my ribcage opens up and my chest lifts up, which is slightly different than lifting my chest with the upper back, which lifts the chest forward. So your diaphragm lifts the chest up, and your upper back lifts the chest forward. Now, if you can't see the difference right away, I can do the chest lift without flexing or moving my upper back. It comes straight up and then I have to pull my shoulder blades together to lift the chest forward. So let's just work a little bit on the diaphragm motion. If you need to inhale with it, but eventually you'll want that same motion without the breath, just breathing normally through the entire thing so that you can talk while you're doing it, you can carry on a conversation while you're doing it, and if you're not sure if you're holding your breath or breathing with it, try humming along to the music as you're doing it. Humming keeps that constant exhale and inhale going, and it keeps you on a regular breath pattern. It's a good way to check and see if you're breathing. So we're going to release, release, release for 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go through more exercises of this before we do our undulation. The next muscle that we're going to use is the transverse wall of the abs, and it really does two things, not complicated things. It either pulls in or it pushes out. So you can either pull it in or push it out. And if this is fatiguing for you or requires a lot of concentration, then really practice getting these muscles to respond quickly, in and release, and in and release, without letting it interfere with your breathing. By pulling it in and releasing, and in and releasing, and in. We can see the difference between the two muscle groups if you put those two motions next to each other. One is a lift and a release. One is a pull and a push. Lift and drop, pull, release. Up, down, in, release. You can do it a little bit faster, and we're going to do the whole thing with a little bit of music. The last muscle that we're going to focus on for our undulation are the lower abs. So the lower abs are not nearest to your belly button. They're below the hip line of your pants. So they go just about from hip bone to hip bone. And when you're activating your lower abs, try bending your knees, relaxing your glutes, and pulling your hips straight in and back. The position that you're looking for is a nice, flat, and extended back, not an increase in the curvature of the back. So you want to pull your stomach in and away. And in this exercise, we're going to take the whole hip structure and we're going to pull it in and back behind the rib cage. So here's the line of my rib cage, and I'm going to pull my hips in and back. And then I'm going to release to this neutral spine that has a natural curve in it, not the hyperextended back, but just the relaxed back. And then I'm going to flatten the back and release to the neutral spine. Flatten the back and release. Keeping your knees bent lets your hips rotate with the motion. Pull and release, and pull and release, and pull and release. Let's go through these three motions by themselves with a little bit of music, then we'll put them together for the undulation. let's take those 3 movements and stack them together, moving through it smoothly to build our full body undulation. We're going to start by lifting the chest, using your upper back and or your diaphragm. We're going to lift forward, lean back just slightly with an arch in the upper back. Begin squeezing your glutes here. That's what's going to protect your lower back. Don't start leaning back and let the arch happen in the lower back. So here I lift forward, and as soon as my shoulders line up with my hips, I've engaged my glutes to support my lower back as I pull through my transverse muscles and I pull it into my lower abs. I'm going to bend the knees to exaggerate the motion slightly, and my goal for when I practice is to have my torso at a right angle to my legs. So I'm going to lift and reach up out of it, roll through the transverse muscles, and pull in and find myself in a folded position at the bottom of the motion. The bottom of the motion is your lower abs engaged, not your lower abs released. We don't start the undulation from here, we start the undulation from here. Lifting through the chest, roll through the transverse, pull in and back through the lower abs, and really accent that as you lift the chest against it. So don't pull your lower abs in if it makes you do this. Lift your chest against it. Keep that long torso. Lift, roll through the transverse, and pull through the lower abs. At the top of your undulation, you want to be the woman at the helm of the ship, the woman that they carve into the mast, with the chest lifted, cutting through the waves. Envision yourself as that woman. Lift and reach and roll back. Engage the glutes, roll through the transverse, and fold yourself in half. Transitioning from our standing undulation to a camel, which is the undulation with the traveling step underneath it, we're going to shift the weight. We're going to shift the weight into the right foot. As the flat of the right foot hits the floor, the chest is going to lift straight up. So we're going to lift the chest as we step onto the right. It looks like this. So lift the chest as you step onto the right foot, roll through the transverse, bring the left foot forward, and reach your chest forward towards the knee. Don't forget to point your toe. Don't leave your foot dangling out here. Point the toe down. As I step into the left foot, I lift up out of it, roll back, pull through the transverse, and reach my chest forward towards that knee. So here you're completely extended, tall. Here you fold it in half. You can think of it as a reach and a fold, lifting up, chest to knee, lifting up, fold yourself in half. So we're going to walk forward on the right foot, the chest lifts, and roll through those 2 muscle groups into this pulled position. Here is not where you want to find yourself with your lower back. Pull it in and back and keep your back flat as you lift your chest. Your hands and arms while you're doing this, try to avoid doing this. For some reason, there's a big tendency as you open your chest to also open your arms. You don't want to look like you're swimming through your undulation. You want to keep your hands relaxed while the motion moves through your torso and not your arms. The elbows are in front of the rib cage. The wrists are in front of the elbows. Roll in and down, lift, roll in and down. Try not to follow the motion with your head. Your head stays centered, relaxed. Imagine balancing something on the top of your head and think about how that would go. When you feel a little bit more comfortable, practice with something balancing on the top of your head. To alter the footwork slightly, we can do doubles on the right and left. On the right foot, together, right foot, touch. Left foot, together, left foot, touch. The chest lifts and we fold in half. Lift, fold in half. Lift the chest, pull through the lower abs, lift the chest, pull. Your goal in activating this to lift and initiate the motion and activating the lower abs to finish the motion is to make people think that your torso is incredibly long. If you have a little undulation that's as long as your torso, it's only going to be about a foot, maybe 1.5 feet long, but you want this to ripple through your entire body, and you want people to think that you've got a stomach that goes on forever. So really work through the upper back and diaphragm to lift and get a good start, get a clean finish by using the lower abs. Let's try those with music. Motion, 5, 6, 7, pull. Lift, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pull. Lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and take your time with it. Feel the diaphragm, feel the transverse to the lower abs. Let's walk back with it. Same motion. Faster for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift and pull and lift, pulling through the lower abs. Doubles on the right, right, and left. Left, right. Let's walk a little bit back with it. Make sure you get all the way down to the lower abs. Let's try singles forward. Doubles back. And singles forward. We're going to add two variations to our basic traveling camel. One is a releve to a plie and a releve to a plie, and the other is a lift and a lift and a lift and all the way to the ground and roll up. And try to feel that snaking motion coming all the way up and down. So let's break down both of them. The first I like to teach in class because it helps students understand that being up on your toe doesn't help you lift your chest. So nothing that you do with your feet can affect whether your torso is rolling or lifting. So coming up on your toe doesn't give you a better start than coming up with a bent knee. You should have the same motion through your torso regardless of whether you're in a releve or a plie. So just the footwork starts with a releve and a plie. We step high and low. We're just going to step right, left, and right, left. Then we're going to switch sides. Touch left and right and left and left and left and left. We're going to, every time our right foot touches the floor as we travel right, our chest is going to lift. So it has to lift, roll, lift, roll, lift. And it doesn't matter whether our knees are very bent or completely extended. Either way, your chest has to come up. Same thing on the left. Every time I step on my left foot, my chest has to lift. To practice the basic coordination of it, it has to be lift and lift and lift and lift and lift. So get that starting point strong, and then you can roll through the rest of it. Once on the right, once on the left, and then we'll try it with music. Right foot and right foot. I lift my chest, lift my chest. Lift to the lower abs, lift, touch. Roll all the way through. Lift and lift. Lift, roll all the way to the lower abs. To add a dramatic dynamic to your camels and undulations, we're going to add a level change. So if you don't feel comfortable going all the way to the floor, practice going halfway down until you feel a little bit more comfortable. We're going to do 4 camels on each side, and on the 4th one, we're going to drop to the floor. So we're going to start with a lift and roll, lift, roll, lift, roll, drop, and find a comfortable position where you can rest down here and you don't feel any pressure on your knees. Your hips go back, but you do want to feel that your hips are making a circular motion back. So they're going to come up and forward, down and back. Up and forward, down and back. Try to feel that circle that counterbalances the hips and the upper body. If you're not going to go all the way to the floor, that's fine. You can just bend the knees and feel the same motion coming through the knees and the lower back. In this variation, it's true, I'm not ending in a tucked tail. I'm releasing in the lower back and I'm pressing up. If you want to really exaggerate it, you would roll through and press up and then come up with the torso. So it's a very untucked position, but because it's your hips leading up, you don't have a lot of pressure in your lower back in that position. Let's try it on the left. 3 undulations, dropping on the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. And lift, 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 and release. Let's try these 2 variations with music. We'll start this combination with a little hip drop, but then we'll add our releve and plie undulations, traveling in a circle with a little bit of an accent. So let's begin. We're going to drop 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's drop, 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 lift up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to step open on the left diagonal. Your hands end at your hips. And you're going to bend your knees and bring your hands down on your legs and come up with a chest pop. Pressing down, pop. Okay? It's a little bit of an accent to practice a little emotionality while you're doing your technique. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rolling into the right, singles rolling back. 5, 6, 7, 8. Left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Both arms up. 5, 6, 7, 8. Releve, plie, opening on the right foot. Your hands are at your hips. You're going to bend your knees. 1, 2, 3, pop. The right foot steps back. Undulation back, undulation back, undulation back, undulation back. Again on the right. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift the arms, slide down the sides of the body. 1, 2, 3. On 4, you're going to open with the left foot. 5, 6, 7. Pop the chest. Roll back on the right foot, back on the left foot, back on the right foot, back on the left foot. Left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift, plie. Lift, plie. Open on the right foot. 1, 2, lift the chest. And left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Let's try it with music. Six, 7, 8. Now let's take our undulation and reverse the direction. Instead of traveling from the chest to the lower abs, we're going to reverse it and travel from the lower abs up to the chest. It works a little bit differently, so we're going to break down how to initiate the motion. When you see a reverse undulation, a lot of times you think, oh, I just push up through my hips and it's going to come up through my body. But you need an adequate preparation to do it. And we're going to start by pulling the lower abs in and back and getting the hips behind the rib cage. If you start pressing while your body has a straight alignment, you're just going to push forward and make yourself look a little bit awkward. So give yourself a prep. Think of your hips almost like an ice cream scoop that scoops in and picks up the ice cream. So pull, you're going to release the back and pull through the lower abs. And then the next step that you want to do is line up your hips, which are currently behind your rib cage. Line it up with your rib cage. And the way you do that is by pushing the hips forward, engaging both glutes. So this position is a released back. This is your lower abs engaged, and we're going to take both glutes, engage them to push the hips forward. Now that's the point where a lot of people tend to drop their chest. Your chest has to be lifted throughout the entire exercise. Release the back, engage the lower abs, glutes push forward, and roll up into a very lifted chest from the diaphragm. You don't want this to happen. Release the back, pull the lower abs in, push forward with the glutes, release the upper back so that you can lift up into it. It gives it a very modern dance, sort of unstructured feeling, and that's not the look of Middle Eastern dance that we want. So you always want to be serene in the upper body and never let that upper body follow the motion of the hips. So keeping your upper back engaged, pull through the lower abs, both glutes push, lift through the chest. Release, lower abs, push, lift. So when I teach it in class, I say pull through the lower abs, then line the hips up with the rib cage and lift through the chest. Pull back, line it up, lift. Pull back, line it up, lift. You can make the motion look a little bit more exaggerated by bending the knees. So release, pull back, line it up, lift. Bend the knees, straighten the legs. Bend the knees, straighten the legs. If you want to add one more accent, you can go from the lower abs to the glutes, diaphragm, chin, and come all the way up into the head. Let's go through that with a little bit of music. We're going to add a little bit of movement underneath our reverse undulation. First, we'll just try walking forward with it, but more commonly, it's used to travel side to side. You see that a lot in very traditional Egyptian dances, so we're going to use that as an exercise as well. When we walk forward with it, just as with the undulation, when your foot lands, you lift your chest. With the reverse undulation, when your foot lands, you flex your lower abs. So this is the coordination that you want to feel. Pull, 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 pull. Okay? That's what initiates the motion up. Tuck, push, and lift. Tuck with the lower abs, push with the glutes, lift from the chest. Tuck, push, lift. Tuck, push, lift. When you feel the tuck, be sure that you're pulling your hips in and back from your rib cage. It starts to look awkward when you don't pull your hips back and you're always pushing your hips forward. So the first part is a pull from the lower abs in, push, lift. Pull in and back, push, lift. Pull in and back, and then roll up. You need to give yourself somewhere to roll up from instead of trying to push forward. The other variation is similar, except the footwork is stepping open and closed, and open and closed, and open, keeping the feet very close together, minimizing the look of the footwork so that you can maximize this small reversed undulation in the lower body. So on the right foot, I flex the lower abs, push forward, I release on the left foot. Push, release, push, release. You can come up into your toes if it gives you more flexibility through your hips. When I'm traveling to the left, I pull the lower abs in on the left foot. Tuck, push, tuck, release, tuck, release, push, tuck, release, pushing forward, release. Let's try those two things with music. Let's take our reverse undulations and challenge ourselves to make sure that we're conscious of when our chest is lifted and when our lower back is releasing. Put those two motions together to come up with a nice danceable movement. We're going to start facing the front. We have a reverse undulation traveling to the right for 4 steps. We're going to pull 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to pull the lower abs in and release for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to end by pulling the lower abs in. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this is an exercise in keeping this tail tucked while you're lifting the chest against it. This is the feeling that you should have when you're practicing the reverse undulation. Keeping your chest lifted while that lower body is undulating back and forth. It's so hard to avoid doing this and having the chest echo the motion in the lower body. Let's try that same thing to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, pull, release, 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 tuck, shoulders, lift, lift. Okay, and that's it, right and left. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, release, 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 shoulders, drop, drop. 1, 2, 3, 4, release, 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 shoulders, drop, drop. When the chest moves, the tail stays tucked. That's what we're focusing on. Let's do it slowly with music. I've included the Turkish Drop or the Turkish Backbend in this DVD to help you gain awareness of when to use your glutes to protect your lower back. The Turkish Backbend or Turkish Drop requires very little flexibility in the lower back, but you do need to use the glutes to reinforce the arch of the lower back. All you need to accomplish the movement is very strong quadriceps, and we'll go over some exercises that you can do if this is a goal of yours that you'd like to work towards. The ending position for this movement requires flexible quadriceps and flexible hip flexors to accomplish and feel comfortable in it. Go carefully through the warm-up and review the sections that talked about stretching out the quadriceps and hip flexors, and focus on those before you do this. Whether you feel like you're ready to accomplish a Turkish Drop or you just are curious and would like to practice, the process is the same for everyone. You want to protect your lower back, you want to protect your knees. You need to build strength gradually. If you already have the strength, you need to be careful about protecting your lower back. We go over this motion in preparation for our large hip circles because, in my opinion, although people think the Turkish Drop is more dangerous, the front position of the large hip circle is one that dancers find themselves in very often, and if you go through this motion unprotected too many times, that is what is going to damage your lower back and spine. So being careful when you're doing something that you perceive as dangerous, like the Turkish Drop, helps you to reinforce your lower back for what you think of as a safer move, but might be actually doing more damage. We're going to engage both glutes, and the Turkish Drop or the Turkish Backbend is not a true backbend where you have to arch through the back and you need a lot of flexibility through the spine. It's actually a flat back position with both glutes flexed, and you're going to push your hips straight forward so that your weight comes forward and you feel the weight come into your quadriceps. While your heels are flat on the floor, this is a fairly comfortable position. You can come back out of it. one of the things that I've learned to do is if I don't have the strength in my legs, I can hold a little 5-pound weight, or if you're feeling more confident, a 10-pound weight here and press forward into it and push out of it. Every time you come forward with the hips, what gets you forward is squeezing both glutes. So I'm going to engage here and push and squeeze, and making sure that you have a nice flat back. Don't let your lower back arch. Engage the glutes and keep it pushed back. We're going to keep pushing more and more forward. Whenever you feel uncomfortable, you can always get out of it by pushing back up, or if you feel like you're too far into the movement, you can sit down into it. And that immediately releases the pressure in your quadriceps and on your back. So we're going to keep the arms relaxed, squeeze both glutes, and push forward as you bend your knees. And come back up. Do this 10 or 20 times until you feel comfortable with that motion. And practice what you're going to do with your head and neck. Now, a lot of back bends, people look straight up. And this portion of your neck is a very open and vulnerable portion. There isn't a muscle that goes down the front of your neck, but you do have 2 muscles along the sides. So practice putting your head to the side, looking over your shoulder, and letting this muscle along the side of your neck carry the weight of your head instead of letting it lay back. So looking to the side, engaging both glutes, and push forward. And come back up out of it. And push forward, and come back up out of it. You'll notice that the feeling changes as soon as you push forward enough to lift your heels off the ground. As soon as your heels come off the ground, that's when you really start using your quadricep strength. So you're going to need that strength if you want to go further than this, pushing the glutes, squeezing, and pushing forward. From this position, I'm going to pay attention to how far from the floor my knees are. My goal in that position is to get my knees about that far from the floor so that I can release them down onto the floor gently without hurting my knees. So I don't want to drop from here because my knees are a little bit too far from the floor. I'm going to squeeze the glutes, push forward. When I feel like my knees are close enough, I'm going to release and flip my feet. Keep pushing the glutes forward. If you feel like you don't have the strength in your glutes, release down. That releases all the pressure. It's like an immediate out. You have a safety valve if you get uncomfortable. Let's try it again. You're going to squeeze your glutes, reaching your knees towards the floor. Keep squeezing the glutes, keep pressing the hips forward, release the knees, flip the toes, and bring the head back. The large hip circle is my favorite move in belly dance because it can be so expressive and also so technical at the same time. You can practice it until it's perfection, and then you can layer on top of that emotionality and musicality, and you'll never see the technique for all of the beauty of it. So the large hip circle takes place on the horizontal plane, and what that means is that your knees work together. So when one knee bends, both knees have to bend. It's never going to be one leg straight and one knee bent. They both bend together, they both straighten together. The 4 points of the large hip circle are the hip slide from side to side, which is an oblique isolation. We explained this in volume 1, but you want to keep your hips level. So you don't want to let this motion come into the knees and put your hips on a diagonal. You want to keep the hips horizontal as you pull through the obliques. In the large hip circle, it's one of the only movements where we're really allowed and encouraged to open the feet up, because the hip movement is so exaggerated that having a wide stance in the feet doesn't really detract from it. We're going to add our hip slide on top of this wide stance, and we're going to pull to the right and slide to the left, and pull right and slide left. Notice how I keep this line of my hips as horizontal as I can. You don't want to reach out with it and reach out to the side. Keep in mind that it's a circle that you might use to keep a hula hoop going instead of the West African circle, which is a little bit closer in. So keep pulling it out and pulling out. You'll notice that I use my feet to help keep this line horizontal. If you don't come into your toes, there's really a tendency to release into the hip and lean into this position. So try and pull through the waist, keeping the waist long instead of letting it shorten on the sides. Those are the sides of the large hip circle. The front and back of the large hip circle is the position of the Turkish drop. It's a flat back position. You shouldn't feel pressure in your lower back. You should feel activation in the glutes. So these muscles protect the lower back, and the bent knees release the body forward. So we're going to engage the oblique, both glutes, oblique, and then the back of the large hip circle is also a flat back position with the lower abs engaged. So don't let the back of your hip circle be here. Let it be here with a lifted chest, getting a nice stretch for your lower back. When we move through the large hip circle, we slide to the right, keeping the hips horizontal. Engage both glutes to push forward. Slide to the left, trying to keep both hips horizontal in the left oblique, and pull through the lower abs. Try not to release, but keep it very active. Slide and push, and slide and pull, and slide and push, and slide and pull. When it starts moving a little bit faster, the dominant muscle groups that are working through this is the glutes and the lower abs. Both glutes push, lower abs pull. Both glutes push, lower abs pull. You should feel a reinforcement on the lower back pushing forward. You should feel a stretch on the lower back pulling in and back. Make sure you have this flat position and not this position. This is the one that can do real harm to your lower back. Practicing your Turkish drop helps you feel comfortable, and getting yourself comfortable with this position can help protect your back in all of the movements that you do, even if you have no goals towards executing the Turkish backbend. Another important factor in your large hip circle is keeping your upper body stable. So no matter how nice your large hip circle is, unlike some of the other isolations where the arms can follow along and it looks quite romantic and natural, in the large hip circle, if the arms follow along even a little bit, it starts looking quite out of control. So you really want to define a horizon line with your hands and keep them relaxed in space. So it doesn't mean that there's no motion in your upper body, but it does mean that you let people know that you're in control of the motion by leaving your hands level and relaxed. Even the smallest movement in the hands starts making people worry. So really try to reach out, long arms, keep it steady. Let's try it with music. add some variations to our basic large hip circle. We're going to add some traveling side to side, right and left, and then we'll show some bigger dramatic large hip circles with separate arm variations. We'll end by using a nice lean and release of the torso to stretch out the obliques that's related to the positions of the large hip circle. Let's start. When you're traveling with a large hip circle, it's a natural feeling to want to travel to the side. If you have a clockwise large hip circle, we're going to take that and travel to the right. With our counterclockwise large hip circle, we'll be traveling to the left. When you step open on the right foot, you're going to push the hips forward, and when you step together on the left foot, you're going to pull the hips in and back and slide over to the left. One of the important things to remember when you're doing large hip circles is that the hips have to stay square to the front at all times. Once you start to twist at all, you've left the plane of the circle and you've moved it into a different shape. So in order to trace out the figure of a circle, make sure that your hip bones stay square to the front, facing the front at all times. We're going to start with 4 steps to the right, pushing forward and then towards the right. You're going to push with both glutes, pull with the lower abs. You're going to push with both glutes, pull with the lower abs. 5, 6, 7, and touch. When I touch to switch directions, I'm pulled in with my lower abs. I'm going to swing around and I'm going to push forward in a counterclockwise hip circle as I step with the left foot, lower abs on the right foot, both glutes on the left foot, lower abs on the right foot. 5, 6, 7, touch. To the right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, touch. I end with the lower abs engaged, my chest lifted, my arms nice and relaxed. To the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, touch. Ending with the lower abs engaged. Some variations on a large hip circle include some arm variations. We can step open and release both arms as we come around, opening on the left and pushing forward on the right. Open on the left, release both arms as you come around, opening on the right, and push forward. Let's switch directions. Opening on the right, release both arms. In this position, I have my lower abs engaged, open to the left, and push forward. Sweep, release, sweep, both arms flat. Left arm up as we come around on the right, both arms release. Right arm up as we come around on the left, both arms flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch direction. Left, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whenever you're doing a sweeping arm over the head or the face, you want to give yourself a lot of clearance. Don't make people worry about you that you may hit yourself in the head. Reach long, give yourself a wide clearance. We're also going to go through a very traditional arm pattern for the large hip circle, which is one arm slicing and following the hips with the circle. So we're going to step open, and the right arm is going to slice in and around, and the hand follows the motion of the hips all the way around. The hand slices in and slices across the hips, bringing it in and around. Be careful that you don't bring this elbow too far across the body. It stops here, and then the arm and forearm complete the motion. On the left, the arm comes into slice, pulling it around. Into slice, and pull it around. It gives it a little bit of a feeling that this hand is the engine that initiates the motion in the hips. The last variation we'll review is a slight difference in the path of the motion of the large hip circle. When we're all the way over here, you have all your weight into the right leg. You should be flexing the right glute to reinforce it. When you come around, you hand it off to the lower abs, and then you're going to come all the way into the left leg. Now, whether you have straight legs in your large hip circle or you have bent legs in your large hip circle, most of your weight, if not all of it, is over here on your left leg. So we're just going to exaggerate that side movement just a little bit, and we're going to bend the standing knee. We'll start on the right, and I'm just going to lean into this hip, flexing the glute, and I'm going to lift the arm up, and I'm going to lean over and release the head and come up. I'm going to try it on the left. I put all my weight in the left leg. I'm going to bend the left leg slightly, and instead of doing a back bend, I'm going to lean right across the side, right through the oblique. So if you don't feel comfortable going very far with it, you can just lean here. What makes it look quite deep is the release of the head. So don't lean your torso and forget to lean your head. Lean the torso and the head and coming up. Our goal is to remember where vertical is and leave that top arm on the vertical plane. Left side, bend the knee, squeeze the left glute, release the head, and come up. Let's try all those variations with music. We have a short combination to practice the dynamic of pulling in with the lower abs and pushing forward with the glutes, coordinating these muscle actions with the feet. So we're going to start by facing the front. We're going to travel to the right for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Travel to the left for 4, stepping left, together, left, touch. We're going to come around in a half turn to the right. Right, together, right, touch. That takes you to the back wall. Then we're going to push forward, and then we're going to lean over and come around. All the way around to the left foot. Okay? Let's do just those hip circles to start. Right, together, right, touch. Push front, pull back, push front, touch. Open right, together, right, together, right, 2, 3, 4. All my weight ends on my left leg, and I'm going to open up to the right. 2 undulations. 1, 2. Ending in the lower abs again. 3, 4. I'm going to step open on my right foot. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to collapse into the genie pose as I come around the back of my circle. 6, 7, ending on the right foot. To start again to the left. Opening to the left. Open, together, open, touch. Right, together, right, touch. Half circle to the left. Open, together, open, touch. Left foot, 6, 7, 8, with the weight ending on the right leg. 2 undulations. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to step open with the left foot. Both arms sweep. 5, 6, 7, 8. Bring the elbow to the hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try that with music. Twisting through the torso is a dynamic common to Middle Eastern dancers, and it helps build flexibility and relaxation through the torso. You can't hold these muscles tense if you're going to twist along them. So we want to, in this exercise, keep breathing, keep getting oxygen to the muscles. It will delay the cramping that might take place. When you feel a cramp starting to occur, drink lots of water, don't stop breathing, holding your breath will make it worse, and move on to another exercise. Maybe come back to this when you're ready. In our twists, we don't need to keep the hips square to the front. We're going to twist along the entire spine. So the motion is centered around the hips, but you'll see that the chest is moving, that the knees are moving. It's a little bit different than what a lot of Americans think of as the twist, which was a dance from the 50s, which actually was twisting through the knees with a secondary motion in the hips. But in this Middle Eastern twist, you want to keep the motion in the hips and keep the knees together. If your knees start moving forward and back, you really easily lose control of the hips. The hip motion stays horizontal with the only motion forward and back. There's no element of up and down in this, so try and keep both knees soft but together as they move forward and back. If you let the knees separate, and they have a tendency to do this, it starts lifting the hips up and down, takes you off of that forward and back plane of motion. So try to keep those knees stuck together. Twists happen in folkloric dancing. A lot of Tunisian dancing is very heavily concentrated along the twists in the hips. But the trick is that you want your hips to be twisting almost 180 degrees. And there's no way to do that unless you let your torso follow along as well. If you keep your chest steady and you try and get a twist through your hips, it's really difficult. But you want to give people the illusion that your upper body isn't following your hips. Where that happens is by keeping the shoulders stable and the hands relaxed. So I'm letting my chest move and follow my hips, but at the same time, there's a stretch happening. There's a stretch happening along my shoulder. There's a stretch happening along this shoulder. My chest stretches away from the shoulder, but the arms stay in place. So try not to let this happen. A lot of people think that this counterbalance is required to get your hips moving, but it's really not. You can twist along your entire spine while keeping your hands relaxed. We're going to start with a twist, and then we're going to add a plie with that twist. Still keeping the hips level. Try to keep your knees close together. When you separate your knees, the forward back motion of the twist gets distracted. And then we're going to travel with it a little bit. We'll take the footwork, stepping forward with the right foot and shifting the weight back with the left foot. This is the same forward and back that we have in our Turkish drop and our large hip circle. I push the glutes to get the hips forward and shift my weight. I pull in with the lower abs to get my weight back. I'm going to be forward on the right foot, and I pull back with the lower abs to pull the hips in and back to the left foot. Forward on the right, and pulling in and back to shift the weight. Let's try that on the left side. We're going to have the feet staggered along a left diagonal, left foot in front, right foot in back. Make sure when you shift your weight that your hips are centered above the leg that you're standing on. Both glutes squeeze to push the weight forward, lower abs pull to pull the weight back. Left hip back and left hip back. You'll notice that it becomes more challenging to control your knees when your legs are separated, but you still have to maintain that horizontal plane of motion in the twist. Use your toe to push your weight back and help you get forward and back. Your feet can help you shift your weight, but your core is going to reinforce that direction change. Let's try it with music. a short combination to practice our weight change with our twists. Always make sure that you don't have your arms swinging side to side and really keep your hands under control. We're going to shift the weight forward for 3 counts and then sit back with it. And it goes 1, 2, 3, sit. 1, 2, 3, sit. 3 of these, and then we push the hips straight forward, front, back, front, pull. That's a hip circle to come around. Right, 2, 3, left. Right, 2, 3, left. The right hip is switching back, and right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot touches. Same thing on the left. Front, 2, 3, sit. Front, 2, 3. Left hip pulling back. Left, 2, 3. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, touch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulders and back. Left foot, 1, 2, 3, 4. Shoulders and back. Left side, 3 forward, 1 back. 1, 2, 3, back. The left hip is always hitting back. Back, back, back. We step with the left foot, right foot. Keep your arms under control as you transition. Front, 2, 3, sit back. Front, 2, 3, sit back. Front, 2, 3, sit back. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. The left side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Leaning forward, pull the lower abs in, sitting up, and drop, 2, 3, 4. Lean forward, and sitting up. Let's try it with music. motion. 5, 6, 7, pull. Lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pull. Lift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And take your time with it. Feel the diaphragm, feel the transverse, the lower abs. Let's walk back with it. Same motion. Faster for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lift and pull and lift, pulling through the lower abs. Doubles on the right, right, and left. Left, right. Let's walk a little bit back with it. Make sure you get all the way down to the lower abs. Let's try singles forward. Doubles back. And singles forward. 6, 7,